Hello. Well, today is a very exciting day for Star Wars Legends Expanded Universe fans because we may finally know the tie up to an extremely loose end still in the Star Wars Expanded Universe. Because although canon is off doing its own thing, us Expanded Universe fans don't really care about whatever's happening to Ahsoka in the new timeline. But what we do care about is, where did she go? She just disappears in the Legends Expanded Universe timeline. And this is a bit of a loose end, right? So we want that tied up. What happens to Ahsoka Tano? Well, thanks to Quality Autism, also known as Noah, his channel will be linked below. He was looking through an art book called Star Wars Art Visions from 2010. And in that book, there is this art piece that depicts Ahsoka Tano versus Darth Vader. It's a really great art piece. It looks to me to be on Coruscant. If you look in the background, those it looks like the Jedi Temple's burning for one thing. So that's interesting. That's interesting placement. Like, is the temple on fire? You know, maybe they're just burning it again. They burned it multiple times. Notice the Stormtrooper there. That Stormtrooper armor is Star Wars original trilogy armor art. So what I'm going to talk about a bit now is where would the placement of this art piece be? Because this art piece would provide an explanation for why Ahsoka is never mentioned again, right? We don't know Ahsoka's fate in Star Wars Legends. Until now, this art piece shows her squaring off against Vader in a fight that clearly she would have lost. So maybe Ahsoka is killed by Darth Vader, and that explains what happens to her in the Star Wars Expanded Universe. This looks to be on Coruscant, and now I'm going to talk about a few details here. Obviously, I just mentioned for timeline placement, this is going to be a little tricky because Stormtroopers weren't originally phased in. Like, for example, through the Dark Times comics, they're still in Clone Trooper Phase 2 armor. The Stormtroopers are still wearing clone armor. They don't switch to Stormtrooper armor until 3ABY, which is when the Force Unleashed video game takes place. Canonically, in the Expanded Universe, that is the date where we get to actually see at the beginning of the Force Unleashed game, there's clone troopers, and then at the end of the game, we see Stormtrooper armor, and then we see like a cross between them in the game as well. So this most likely will take place then after 3ABY, after the Force Unleashed, which is interesting because that means Vader's already had another apprentice. So to me, that means maybe having Starkiller as an apprentice made him think of back when he was Anakin and Ahsoka was his apprentice, and then he remembered that loose end, that maybe he was just so busy that he didn't give it much thought, but then the whole Starkiller scare made him think, I've got to track down Ahsoka, because canonically this only works after the Force Unleashed due to that Stormtrooper armor. Now look at R2-D2. R2-D2 is in a cartoon during this era, in between episodes 3 and 4, called Star Wars Droids. But this would be canonically after Star Wars Droids, which I think it would have worked better if it was placed before. Like maybe Ahsoka was one of the masters before, like after he was with Bail Organa, which it was established that R2 was with Bail Organa for a time. Then Ahsoka took him, and then that's how he ended up like separated from Ahsoka, and then somehow C-3PO and him got to Thal Jobin, which is the first master that we see R2 and C-3PO with in the Droids cartoon. So I thought it would make more sense like that, but it turns out that it won't work that way. So perhaps R2 and C-3PO were separated from Bail Organa. We don't know the whole story behind that. They did the whole Droids cartoon, and then after that, we never see Bail Organa come back for them. So maybe we can theorize that Ahsoka came across them by chance somewhere in the galaxy and was like, oh, it's R2 and 3PO, so I'll take them with me. And that is why we see R2 in the background there. And then at some point after this, that's when Bail Organa comes back in and takes them, and then they end up on the Tantive with Leia for A New Hope. I think that actually, that timeline works pretty well if it's after Droids, I guess. Like maybe directly after the Droids cartoon, Ahsoka comes across them, and now R2's right there. Is this reading a lot into an art piece? Yes, it is. But like this art piece is part of the Expanded Universe. So we need to know when Ahsoka perished, because this is great for being a tie up to a loose end. We don't know what happened to Ahsoka in the EU. We do now, this art piece. Darth Vader happens to her on Coruscant. And due to the armor of the Stormtrooper. Well, first of all, due to Vader being Darth Vader, we know it at least takes place after Revenge of the Sith. The Stormtrooper armor means it must take place after The Force Unleashed. R2 being there is interesting. It works. It definitely means that it's before A New Hope, right? So, like, R2 being there symbolizes it would be before A New Hope. And it makes more sense for Ahsoka to be gone before the original trilogy, too. Now, notice there's two... It looks like they're twins. It looks like they're twin female Jedi. It's very hard to tell, but it appears that they're twin female Jedi there. Who are they? We really don't know. We really do not know who those characters there are. We don't even have theories about them. We don't have names. We don't have anything. But Ahsoka is with these two Jedi. So at some point, she's met up with other Jedi. Perhaps these Jedi wanted to go at Vader, and so they recruited Ahsoka back into the Order, because as we know, Ahsoka left the Order. But just because she left the Order doesn't mean she wouldn't pick up a lightsaber and try to fight Vader again. Maybe these two Jedi recruited her back to her cause, like Ahsoka was chilling on some planet after picking up R2 and 3PO, reminiscing about times before the Empire, and these two Jedi show up and they're like, hey, we think Vader's Anakin, or somehow they know. Maybe Ferris Olin told them. And then Ahsoka's like, all right, I have to help. That was my master. And that leads to this confrontation where Ahsoka and those two die, and R2 somehow gets away. There's a lot to take in here in this art piece. You know, it doesn't give us a lot. It's hard because we do know that the art piece is called Now My Enemy, because of course Ahsoka is now the enemy of Darth Vader. And although we don't have a lot of information other than that about the story of what's going on, we do have these indicators here: the Stormtrooper armor, Vader in his armor, R2-D2 being there. It's Coruscant. We have details to where we can piece together like where in the timeline this takes place. So I think it makes most sense after The Force Unleashed, but maybe before The Force Unleashed 2, when Vader gets involved with being captured by the Rebels, because then you have to account for that. Ahsoka can't fight Vader when he's captured by the Rebels, or can she? Maybe Ahsoka's trying to stop him and the Stormtroopers from breaking out of Rebel custody, but then why would it be on Coruscant? See, there's all these things to consider. I think that for me, I would place Ahsoka's death as depicted in Now My Enemy, the art piece, as being between The Force Unleashed and The Force Unleashed 2, just due to mainly the Stormtrooper armor. That Stormtrooper armor is a big factor here, a big factor. And The Force Unleashed is where we see the clone armor shift to Stormtrooper armor. We see that within the game. So it's difficult to get placement for this, but it's an exciting day for us as Expanded Universe fans because Ahsoka is dead. Let's have a little cheer. I hope you were cheering at home. Ahsoka is dead. That's great. Vader kills her the way it should be. I don't know what Rebels in the new canon was doing by killing her and then bringing her back. And now she's going to do the Thrawn trilogy in canon. That's going to be a delight. I don't actually care because I don't follow new canon. But, you know, in the expanded universe, Ahsoka is killed by Vader. That's that loose end tied up. And this art piece depicts that. So now the only thing is, where does it take place? And I think I've narrowed it down pretty decently. But what about you guys? What do you think of this art piece? Are you as excited as I am that Ahsoka is finally gone? I'm very excited myself. Big thanks to Noah for finding this in this art book. That's an incredible discovery. It's great to tie up that loose end from TCW in the expanded universe. It's a great tie-up, and my timeline here is just using what we know, the facts that we already know, to try to piece together where exactly this takes place. We know, obviously, between Episode 3, and we don't know for sure before Episode 4, but I think it would make most sense that way. Like, it doesn't make sense for her to interact with the original trilogy characters at all. So I've put where I think it takes place between The Force Unleashed 1 and 2. That's where I think it takes place. I could be wrong. Let me know when you guys think that this story takes place. Because I'll be interested to hear everyone else's theories about where in the timeline and the time frame this takes place. But Ahsoka is dead. 2 thumbs up. We should all be very excited. And now we just have to decide, where does it go? And I think it goes here. Let me know if you like that theory. And make sure to also check out the description for MagnenoAlex's thoughts on this. He broke the news earlier today on YouTube with Noah's permission, so I will link that video as well. Go check out Alex's live stream where he talks a bit about this himself. He does point out that it's interesting that Ahsoka is not in her like seasons 4 through 6 garb, but is in her seasons 1 to 3 of Clone Wars garb. I mean, you can still wear clothes that you used to wear, I suppose. It's fine. It doesn't take away from the art piece for me. I still think it works perfectly. But go hear his thoughts. So check out Noah, who found this amazing art piece. His channel will be linked in the description. And check out Alex's video or live stream where he talked a bit about this discovery as well. And let me know, again, what you think of my timeline placement for Ahsoka's death. We can all be happy, fellow Expanded Universe fans, because Ahsoka is out of the picture, and that's one loose end tied up.